On August 17th, 2025, Dragongate presents Dangerous Gate. It's a slightly earlier start time than usual, so the West Coast gets it at a fairly reasonable hour. The stream starts about 15 minutes before the event kicks off, so you can hear Jay and Ho-Ho talk about the card, and basically everything I'm about to tell you here. Match 1. ISHIN vs Homare. Homare is Shun Skywalker's protege, and has officially taken Shun's side in the regime change of Z-Brats, while ISHIN remains on the side of Madoka Kikuta's hostile takeover. At the August 5th Kodoken, these two were across the ring from each other in a tag match, and then got into a fight backstage. So this match is a nice little bookend with the main event, and it's free on YouTube, so hopefully they'll give it some time. And as good as Homare is, I will remind you that he has been wrestling for less than a year. Match 2. Love and Peace. Hyo, Jackie Kame, Rita, Mochizuki Jr. versus Don Fuji and Mochizuki Dojo, Ryofuda, Daiki Nagiuchi, and Akihiro Sahara. This actually has a low-key build if you've been paying attention. Ryofuda recently got a rare singles win over Mochizuki Jr. in Kobe, so apparently Mochi's mentorship is working, but as I'll get to in a minute, he's busy elsewhere on the card. So instead, his BFF Don Fuji has stepped in. Fuji has wanted to be a mentor to rookies for a long time and offered Sahara a place in his longtime unit that never was, Fuji Heya, but Sahara stun-locked Fuji by joining Mochizuki instead. The rest of Love and Peace seem to be just along for the ride, but that's pretty on brand for the unit of weird himbos. Hopefully we'll see a callback to the running gag of Fuji smacking Junior upside the head. Match 3. Mizkan Battle Royal. Punch Tominaga, KZ, Takashi, Ultimo Dragon, Ben K, Kai, Yoshiki Kato, UT, Strong Machine J, Naruki Doi, Susumu Yokosuka, BB Hulk, Kagetora, and Problem Dragon. This match highlights Dragongate's new sponsor, Mizkan Kantansu Vinegar. Hey, it's not that weird, they used to be sponsored by a sponge. This is just to get everyone else on the card. There are definitely some people in this match who I would much rather see get something better, and I'm not even sure if this is for anything, other than maybe a year's supply of cooking vinegar. But the trade-off is getting some crossover inter-promotional attention, and several rookies getting spots on the card that they otherwise wouldn't, so I can't complain too much. Odds are either Ben K or Strong Machine J takes this one because they're the only unit leaders in the match. Match 4. Open the Bravegate Championship. Champion Ryoya Tanaka versus challenger Masaki Mochizuki. After his first successful defense against Jun Masaoka at Masaki Mochizuki's produced show Buyuden Zero, Ryoya Tanaka called out Masaki Mochizuki because he's under 83 kilos right now. Mochi was reluctant to accept, but finally relented. This is the first time the 55-year-old veteran Mochi has ever attempted to win the Bravegate, and he's been cutting weight recently, to the point where Ryoya has told him he's become too skinny. Bro, have you seen yourself? Eat a carb. It'll be interesting to see what Mochi does in a Bravegate environment, because as much of a striker and grappler as he is, the old man still flies whenever he gets the chance. Match 5. Dragongate vs All Japan. Yamato, Dragon Kid, and Kazuma Kimura versus the Aoyagi brothers and Ryo Inoue. This came about on August 5th while Naruki Doi was promoting his upcoming produce show, which will be a full Dragongate vs All Japan card. As a longtime partner of Doi, Yamato said he wanted to face some of the All Japan roster too, and 3 of them just happened to be in the audience. Now admittedly, I don't know much about All Japan, but I do know that they've named a new 4 Pillars of Heaven, and Yuma Aoyagi is one of them. He's also a former Triple Crown champion. The younger brother of the two is Atsuki Aoyagi, who is a former junior heavyweight champion. Together they're the current All-Asia Tag Team champions. Ryo Inoue has been around for a few years and has even tagged with former Dragongate talent Oji Shiba, but he's still a green boy according to Yamato. So when Yamato and Dragon Kid challenged the Aoyagi brothers, they needed another green boy, and they chose Kimura, who debuted in the previous match. So it seems like they're already pretty high on him, but if anyone's taking the fall, the odds are stacked against the kid who literally just debuted half an hour before this match was made. Match 6. Open the Triangle Gate Championship. 2 out of 3 falls match. Champions Luis Monte, Flamita, and Bendito versus challengers Los Golpeadores and Super Crazy. Yet another promotion's tag team champions are here. Admittedly, I don't follow a ton of Noah either, other than the ones we've lost, but it's a fair bit more than I know about All Japan. This was a follow-up on Luis Monte's anniversary match, which was stopped early because Dragonbane suffered a concussion. So they ran it back, and Alpha Wolf and Dragonbane defeated Monte and Flamita. And with Monte, Flamita, and Bendito being the first ever All-Mexican Triangle Gate champions, Los Golpeadores proposed the first ever All-Mexican title match, bringing in Lucha legend Super Crazy to even up the teams. And just to make it even more Lucha, GM Ryo Saito made it a 2 out of 3 falls match. Match 7. Open the Twin Gate Championship. Champions Z-Brats, Jason Lee and Kota Minoura versus challengers D-Courage, Yuki Yoshioka and Dragon Daya. And now we finally get to Dragongate's own tag titles. Kota Minoura and Jason Lee have held the Twin Gate since December, and have only been defending them sporadically, but the story of the latter half of the year seems to be how Yoshioka got his groove back. The original D-Courage team never lost the Twin Gate, but had to vacate them when Yuki suffered a detached retina that kept him out of action for more than a year. The whole experience sounded absolutely miserable, so it was a surprise to many that his return story was a losing streak. This turned around when his fellow Gifu native Hiroshi Tanahashi, the ace and president of New Japan, officially passed down the name of his frog splash, the High Fly Flow, to Yoshioka, hoping to light a fire under him to become the next ace of Dragongate. Daya, on the other hand, has a storied history with both Jason and Minoura, going back to their time in Masquerade. They took Daya's side when Shun betrayed him, but later aligned with him in Z-Brats. Now they've just ousted Shun in favor of Kikuta, who recently betrayed D-Courage. So considering that D-Courage formed when Daya forgave his bitter rival Yuki, I'm just saying... Match 8. Open the Dreamgate Championship. Champion Shun Skywalker versus challenger Madoka Kikuta. This challenge happened very quickly after Shun... Wait, hold up a second, this match got a whole-ass poster graphic. This challenge happened very quickly after Shun Skywalker defeated Yamato for the Dreamgate at Kobe World for his third reign with the belt, but there's a non-zero chance that this could be a V0 defense. Immediately after his win, Kikuta turned against Shun and took over leadership of Z-Brats, saying it was the law of the jungle and only the strongest survive. Homare sided with his mentor, and Kikuta declared that the remaining ones were the only members of Z-Brats. Which, wow, way to throw Gianni Valletta under the bus, but I guess he's going for a championship in Bulgaria or something, so he's probably pretty busy. I thought they'd be due for a name rebranding under Kikuta, but it seems like that's not coming yet since they just re-established themselves. But if Kikuta wins the Dreamgate here, I think that might still be coming. Speaking of units, one interesting thing here is that Shun Skywalker is now a man without a country, which hasn't been the case since he kicked himself out of Mochizuki Dojo in 2019. But he hasn't changed his ways at all, and he says he's still above everyone else, but Homare can come along for the ride if he wants to. He and Homare have a great tag dynamic, and if Shun loses and D-Courage doesn't win the Twin Gate here, it feels like poetic justice that Shun might call his shot from winning Rey de Brejas with Homare this past spring. Even though they gave up that title shot and said they weren't interested, that was only to stabilize the tension in Z-Brats, which was part of Kikuta's ruse to mess with D-Courage anyway. So it seems like they could call back to that anytime they wanted. But that's if Shun doesn't retain here, so there are a lot of directions this could go. Overall, pretty solid card, and the crossover appearances are only going to benefit them, so it seems like between that and the new sponsorship, Dragongate is on an upswing, even though they can't run some venues over the next year. Gate of Destiny will be a smaller 2-day event because the main Edion Arena in Osaka is still under renovations. We aren't getting Final Gate in Fukuoka in December. I haven't heard anything about Gate of Bayside 2026 yet, and next year's Dead or Alive will either be relocated or not happen at all due to Dolphins Arena in Nagoya shutting down. There are other upcoming named events like Gate of Miyane and Gate of Origin, but they're small venue shows, so I'm only going to cover those if I have the time. Otherwise, I'll keep this one up through August and then move it over to my archives as usual. By the way, if you haven't noticed by now, I've got a whole new series on my channel called Disbanded, which focuses on the Dragongate units that have split up over the years. I plan to go back and eventually cover all of them from the beginning of Toryumon, and I'll be posting a new one every Friday for the next several weeks. It's been a relatively slow summer for my indie work, so I've been able to generate a lot more content, but things might get busy in September, so I'll see you when I see you.